Hello and welcome to Spectrum TV News at 9. I am Francis Oyima Edet, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. Let's take a look at the headlines. Vice President Shettima set to visit Kaduna tomorrow. Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly empowers Governor Moino to constitute interim administration. Plus, Israeli forces battle Hamas in main southern Gaza city. We'll bring you details of these stories and more in a moment. Many thanks for joining us. First in the news tonight, the Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, has rescheduled his visit to Kaduna State. Shettima was supposed to visit the affected communities today, but decided to move his visit to Thursday. This is disclosed in a statement by the Kaduna State government 3 days after the deadly airstrike that killed over 85 persons and injured several others in the northwestern state. No reason was given for the postponement of the visit by the number 2 citizen. Meanwhile, Sunday's tragic incident has received condemnation from local and international watchdog, all calling for investigations and a standardized review of procedural activities. The Army has since taken responsibility for the accident, with the Chief of Defense Staff CDS General Christopher Musa during his visit apologizing to the community over the matter and promising to hold a repeat of such incident. Meanwhile, Vice President Kashim Shettima has endorsed the use of a non-kinetic method to combat insecurity in the southeast region of the country. This is in addition to other steps that security agencies are already implementing. Shettima made the statement when a group led by Deputy Speaker of the House of Representatives, Benjamin Kalu, paid a courtesy visit to the presidential villa. The Vice President explained the merit of using a non-kinetic strategy to deal with the security situation in the southeast, claiming that it will spare the region from an everlasting war. Reports say the delegation from the Peace in Southeast Project visited the Vice President to present a proposal and invite him to the inauguration of the project, which proposes a non-kinetic solution to the issue in the southeast region. In another development, the Nigerian government has signed a bilateral air services agreement (BASA) with Kuwait for the commencement of direct flights. This is disclosed by the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, on his X handle, formerly known as Twitter. BASA is an air transport agreement between two countries that allows designated airlines to operate commercial flights covering the transportation of passengers and cargo. According to Keyamo, the agreement was signed at the ongoing International Civil Aviation Negotiation ICANN event organized by the International Civil Aviation Organization ICAO in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. The agreement is stated would facilitate the commencement of direct flights, passengers and cargo between both countries. Away from that, the federal government has set up a 10-member committee on Nigeria's values charter. The committee is expected to drive the national drive for citizen reorientation. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, constituted the committee today. The committee, which has 2 weeks to submit its report, has as its members Dr. Muhammad Awal Haruna, Chairman, Dr. Biodun Adeni, Deputy Chairman, Dr. Otive Ibuazo, Member, Dr. Emma Agu, Member, Dr. Grace Awoleye, Member, Dr. Mande Philip, Member, Dr. Tunji Aziz, Member, Dr. Naima Aminu, Member, Nkechi Ali Balogun, Member, and Theresa Nalu, Director of Orientation and Behavioral Modification (OBM) of the National Orientation Agency (NOA), will coordinate the committee. Meanwhile, the federal government has said that Nigeria will soon have the largest electric mass transit fleet in Africa. Minister of Foreign Affairs Yusuf Tuga, who made this known at the just concluded 28th conference of the parties COP28, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, underscored the urgent need for concerted global action to address the challenges of climate change. Tuga said Nigeria aims to have the largest electric mass transit fleet in Africa and increase electric buses from 100 to 1,000, noting that the country is leading the fight against climate change in Africa, but setting ambitious and realistic goals. The minister also stressed the critical role of collaboration, innovation, and shared responsibility in combating the escalating climate crisis. In the meantime, the federal government, through the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation, will be spending 138.6 million naira to combat fake news and print calendars. Part of the sum will also be used to facilitate media appearances for ministers and organize engagement with social media influencers, among others. This is contained in the details of the 2024 Preparation Bill currently before the National Assembly. Former Minister of Information and Culture Lai Mohammed initiated an advocacy against fake news under the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari. Recalled then, in a news interview with newsmen, he stated that Nigeria had graduated from ordinary fake news to a deeper one, which according to him was being used to wage war against the government and its officials. Away from that, the Minister for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Beta Edu, says 1 million vulnerable households in Kogi State have benefited from the federal government's Conditional Cash Transfer (CCT) as part of efforts to ameliorate the impact of the harsh economic situation in the country. Edu disclosed this in Kabawa, a suburb of Lokoja, while fielding questions from journalists. The minister, who had earlier kicked off the federal government's grant for the vulnerable, disclosed that the President Bola Tinubu's administration was targeting lifting at least 50 million people out of poverty within the next 42 months. She pointed out that the government was bringing on board the End Hunger program, which would help to renew the hope for the very poor and vulnerable people in the society. Meanwhile, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, SGF George Akume, has said that President Bola Tinubu will not weaponize religion and ethnicity, noting that his intentions can be seen from his appointment, which spreads across religions and ethnic divides. Akume also said Nigeria should be rest assured that Tinubu would deliver on his renewed hope agenda. The SGF met this noon in Abuja at the Nigeria Inter-Religious Council 2023 fourth quarterly meeting tagged Restoration of Hope in Nigeria. Akume in his submission noted that religion was very sensitive and volatile, hence religious leaders should focus on promoting mutual understanding, while political leaders should work for the common good and welfare of the people. In another development, the Chief of Staff, COS, to the President Femi Gbajabiamila, has debunked stories making the rounds online that a huge amount of money was budgeted for the renovation of his residence in the 2024 Preparation Bill. There has been a backlash, especially on social media, following claims that 10 billion naira was budgeted for the renovation of the Chief of Staff residence and that 10.1 billion naira was also budgeted for his computer software. In a post on his official X handle, Gbajabiamila, however, said there was no provision in the 2024 Preparation Bill for the renovation of his residence, adding that he lives in his private apartment. He said the amount quoted online was for renovating the presidential quarters in Dodam Barracks and the Vice President's Lodge in Lagos. In a separate development, the Director General of the World Trade Organization, WTO, Ngozi Ogonjo-Iweala, has been listed on Forbes' 100 Most Powerful Women list. According to Forbes' 20th annual ranking, released on Tuesday, a distinguished Nigerian economist holds the 87th spot, surpassing South African businesswoman Mpumi Madisa, who stands at 88. Tanzanian President Samia Hassan also makes her debut on the list at the 93rd position, alongside Nigerian mogul and philanthropist Mo Abudu at the 98th position. Topping the chart is Ursula von der Leyen, President of the European Commission for Impactful Policy and Budget, while Christine Lagarde, European Central Bank President, secures the second spot, with U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris following closely in third place. Ogonjo-Iweala, who shattered barriers in 2021 as the first woman and the first African Director General of World Trade Organization, is celebrated for her remarkable career at the World Bank and impactful economic reforms in Nigeria. A recognition on Forbes' list underscores not only her significant contributions to global trade, but also her commitment to economic development, governance, and international leadership. Move to the red chambers, where the chairman of the Senate Appropriation Committee, Senator Adeola Olamilekan, today directed the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, Melekari, to appear before the committee in 24 hours. Olamilekan, who asked Kyari to appear in company of the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, warned that failure to appear undermines the legislature and sabotages the process. They are required to present the list of all individual companies operating with civil licenses in Nigeria, as well as total production output approved on a daily basis. The lawmaker expressed concern that some of the revenues required to drive the 2024 budget was attributed to the NNPCL, which according to him was owned by the federal government and responsible to it, and by extension the three arms of government. Recall that the NNPCL had earlier shown for a second time summons by the Senate to appear before its committee probing over 11 trillion naira expenditure on turned around maintenance of refineries in the country between 2010 and 2023. Meanwhile, Senate has expressed displeasure over the inability of key revenue-generating agencies, including the Nigeria Ports Authority, NPA, and Nigeria Customs Service, NCS, to stop what it called serious cases of revenue leakages in the country. The Senate, which spoke through its Public Account Committee, disclosed that the NPA failed to recover $1 billion, representing the debt of terminal operators, as well as another $68 million outstanding shipping bills and estate rents. The committee at its sitting also adopted the audit query issued to the NCS over the non-remittance of some 62.2 billion naira to the Federation account. The committee, which charged the revenue-generating agencies to wake up to their responsibilities, noted that continued leakages in revenue threw the country into perennial budget deficit and borrowing. The chairman of the committee, Ahmed Wadada, said the committee was disappointed that the management of NPA failed to appear before it for questioning, even after invitations were properly sent by the committee. In the meantime, Deputy Senate President Baru Jibrin has condoled the families of the victims of the recent bombing mishap in a village at Tudumbiri, Igabi local government area of Kaduna State. Describing the incident as unfortunate, Senator Barrow joined calls for a thorough investigation into the incident as directed by President Bola Tinubu. While urging the security forces to thoroughly scrutinize the matter, he appealed to the relatives of the victims and good people of Kaduna State to remain calm. In a statement by the Special Advisor Media and Publicity, Ismail Modasha, the Deputy Senate President prayed to Allah to grant the victims genital fados and provide their families with the strength to bear the irreparable loss. We move now to the Green Chambers, where the House of Representatives Committee on Public Petition has issued a warrant of arrest on the Central Bank Governor Olayemi Kodoso, the Accountant General of the Federation Oluwatoyin Madin, and 17 others for refusing to appear before it to answer questions on their operations. This followed the adoption of a motion by a member representing Bayelsa Fred Agbedi at the committee's hearing. Moving the motion, Agbedi said that the arrest warrant had become inevitable following the attitude of the invitees. In its ruling, the chairman of the committee, Michael Irom, said the Inspector General of Police should ensure the CEOs were brought before the committee on December 14th. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has resolved to improve local human capacity in the oil and gas industry to address capital flight in the country. Lawmaker Thomas Eriyitomi, chairman of the Committee on Petroleum Resources Training Fund, said these at the inauguration of the committee in Abuja. He said the House of Rep is also seeking to shore up the gross domestic product of Nigeria, noting that the committee was committed to repositioning the manpower development drive, economic growth and diversification, fostering social development, and ensuring the global competitiveness of the country. He noted that the committee remained one of the important committees of the lower house as its tax remained enormous. The judicial march is now where the Federal High Court sitting in Kano today issued a warrant of arrest for a Lebanese man, Mangd Ali Tang, for failure to appear before it. Justice Mohammed Nasir Yunusa issued the warrant following the refusal of the defendant to appear in court to enter his plea over a charge of alleged arson. Ali Tan, the managing director of Alibert Products Nigeria Limited, alongside his employee Mustafa Temiyu, was charged by the Inspector General of Police. Reports say when the case came up for arraignment, the prosecution counsel Abdul Salam Salah told the court that the defense counsel, who is standing as the surety to the defendants, promised to provide them for arraignment. So Labour marchers now were ahead of 2024 negotiation of a new minimum wage for workers in the country. The Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) has said that only an amount reflective of the current economic realities will be accepted. The NLC President Joe Ajaero stated this in Abuja at the 19th edition of the NLC 2023 Hamilton School. Ajaero, represented by the Vice President of NLC, Benjamin Anthony, said it was necessary for government at all levels to recognize that life and living conditions were getting more difficult. The NLC President added that the ultimate goal of Labour was a living wage that covers the cost of living and makes allowance for savings. Another development, the Minister of Federal Capital Territory FCT Nyesom Wike will tomorrow, Thursday, December 7th, flag off the rehabilitation of road projects in the Asokoro district of Abuja. This is part of his commitment to the maintenance and optimization of public infrastructure, as well as ensuring the seamless functioning of essential services in the nation's capital. The Asokoro district, known for its significance and strategic importance in the city, will witness comprehensive road rehabilitation aimed at improving accessibility, traffic flow, and overall urban aesthetics. According to a statement issued today by the Director Price of Office of the FCT, Anthony Ogunleye, the initiative is a testament to the Minister's dedication to ensuring that public infrastructure is not only developed but also meticulously maintained to meet the evolving needs of the city. Meanwhile, the flag-off ceremony will take place at the Aya roundabout in Asokoro by noon. Away from that, following the airstrike that killed at least 85 people and injured several others at Tudunbiri village in Kaduna State on Sunday, the United Nations has urged the military to review its rules of engagement. Recall that the army drone targeting bandits struck as residents were celebrating their Malut festival. Reacting to the incident, the UN Human Rights Public Information Officer, Siev Magango, today expressed his disapproval of the attack, noting that it was the latest of at least 4 airstrikes that have resulted in significant civilian fatalities since 2017. Meanwhile, the Nigerian Army today launched a military exercise dubbed Operation Golden Dawn III to address security concerns in Abia State. Governor Alex Soti launched the exercise at the 14th Brigade Step-Up Headquarters, Isiochi, in Umunnechi local government area of the state. Oti, represented by Special Assistant on Security McDonald Uba, expressed confidence that the exercise would assist in flushing out criminal elements in the nooks and crannies of the state. He further stated that it will provide additional encouragement to the military and other security services to further reduce crime and criminality throughout the state during the Yuletide season. The governor advised officers and men taking part in the exercise to follow the rules of engagement and code of conduct. Away from that, Major Jack, PDP Akuku Turuwan, and Franklin Ngobuchi, PDP Anthony, have emerged respectively as the majority leader and chief whip of the Rivers House of Assembly. The new House leaders emerged and subsequently took the oath of office following an election by 27 members during today's plenary at the Assembly chamber. Commenting their emergence, Speaker Martins Amaiwule, PDP Obiakpo 1, congratulated the officers while also charging them to remain committed to their new responsibilities. Back here, the Akwa Ibom State Governor, the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly has passed a resolution authorizing Governor Omoino to constitute interim administration in the 31 local government areas of the state. The House resolution, which is in pursuant to Section 5 subsection 2 of the Local Government Administration Law 2017, was passed today at plenary following a message from the Governor addressed to the Speaker and read by the Clerk, Nsika Obasiorok. The Governor in the message had informed the lawmakers that there was no provision in the 2023 budget for local government elections, and so there was no funds appropriated for that purpose. Governor further hinted that the State Independent Electoral Commission (ACISEC) has commenced a process leading to the announcement of the date for election of new chairman of local government councils. Hence, he is left with no alternative but to set up interim government in the local government areas pending the conduct of elections as proposed by ACISEC, and prayed the House to favorably consider his request.
The Right Honorable Speaker, Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly, without number having the review, Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Speaker, sir, resolution authorizing the governor to constitute interim administration in the local government areas. I write to request that the House of Assembly passes the resolution authorizing me to constitute interim administration in the local government areas of our state, pursuant to Section 5 Sub 2 of the Local Government Administration Law 2017. The 2023 budget made no provision for local government elections, and so there were no funds appropriated for that purpose. The 2024 budget proposal, which I have presented before the House, is currently undergoing sectoral defense and breakdown by the respective MPs before passage. The term of office of the incumbent local government chairman has expired, as the council stand resolved by virtue of Section 5, subsection 1 of the Local Government Administration Law 2017. Akwa Ibom State Independent Electoral Commission (ACISEC) has commenced the process leading to the announcement of the dates for election of new chairmen of local government councils.
Deputy Leader of the House and member representing Surubium State Constituency, Otto Bombop, speaking in support of the message, urged his colleagues to grant the governor's request. Also contributing to the debate on the matter, the Chairman House Committee on Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs and member representing Etemekbo Ika State Constituency, Mfon Idong, and member representing Parenin Uwem Imoita, agreed that it became necessary for the House to accede to the governor's request to prevent a vacuum in grassroots governance in the state. Reacting, Speaker Udema Tong directed the clerk of the House, Nsikar Basia Rook, to communicate the House resolution to the governor for further action. Meanwhile, the House of Assembly has adjourned plenary to Thursday, 14th December 2023. And still to come in the news, sugar falls to over 3-month low, 25 cents per pound. Do stay with us.
Christmas season is here again. Are you aware that making your business or products visible on a television space gives your brand a wider visibility and patronage? In the spirit of the season, Spectrum Television is offering a whopping 25% discount on all services. Advertise your products and services while this offer lasts from 1st December 2023 to January 31st, 2024. We are a television with a passion to take your business and services on a satisfactory lane. You do not want to miss this opportunity. For more inquiries, visit our city office at number 2 Taft Plaza Close off Akaitinen Road, Yo Akwa Ibom State, or call the following numbers on your screen. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Glad to welcome you back, and now to the rest of the news stories. Moving now to Africa, where the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, says military coups in Burkina Faso Mali and Niger Republic are feeling regional insecurity. The ECOWAS Commission President Omar Touare stated this today in his opening remarks during the 51st Ordinary Session of the ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council at the ministerial level in Abuja. Recall that soldiers took over power in Mali on May 24, 2021, Burkina Faso on January 23, 2022, and in Niger Republic on July 26, 2023. Touare noted that the overall security environment in the region has continued to be challenged, adding that on the political front, the transition roadmaps and timetables agreed with the transition authorities in Mali, Guinea and Burkina Faso for rapid and peaceful restoration of constitutional order have been implemented at varied phases amid worsening security situations. Still in Africa, the military governments of Mali and Niger have announced plans to end their decades-long tax agreements with France within the next 3 months. The ruling juntas of the two countries said in a joint statement that they were ending the tax pact due to France's persistent hostile attitude towards their countries and the unbalanced nature of the agreement, which resulted in a considerable loss of revenue for Mali and Niger. Reports say Mali's tax agreement with France has been in place since 1972, while Niger's deal with the European country has existed since 1965. The deals were created to prevent Malian and Nigerian nationals who live in France from paying tax in two countries. They also prevent French nationals in the two African countries from paying twice. Meanwhile, 19 South Africans who had been trapped in Gaza since the breakout of the war with Israel in October have safely returned home. They arrived at Johannesburg's airport aboard a flight from Cairo, Egypt. The group had initially been evacuated to Cairo through the Rafah crossing after securing approval from Israeli authorities. The Director General of South Africa's Foreign Ministry, Zen Dango, said the agency will make efforts to safely evacuate citizens still in Gaza. On a foreign scene, Russian President Vladimir Putin arrived in the United Arab Emirates today for a brief visit to the Gulf country. According to the country's state news agency, which announced on X, formerly Twitter, the Russian president was greeted in Abu Dhabi by Emirati President Mohammed bin Sajid. Putin plans to travel to Saudi Arabia later on to meet with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. According to Russian information, Putin praised the bilateral relationship between the countries as historical, unprecedented, and invited Sajid to attend the 2024 BRICS summit in Kazan. The BRICS countries include Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Elsewhere, Boris Johnson today apologized for the pain and the loss and the suffering caused by the COVID-19 pandemic as he began giving evidence at a public inquiry into his government's handling of the health crisis. The former Prime Minister, who has faced a barrage of criticism from former aides for alleged indecisiveness and a lack of scientific understanding during the pandemic, is facing 2 days in the witness box. Johnson, who was forced from office last year over lockdown-breaching parties held in Downing Street during the pandemic, accepted that mistakes had unquestionably been made. Meanwhile, Israeli forces battle him as militants in Gaza's main southern city today in some of the most intense combat of the 2-month-old war sparked by the October 7 attacks. The focus of the conflict has shifted into the besieged territories south following fierce fighting and bombardment that reduced much of the north to rubble and forced 1.9 million people to flee. Reports say Israeli troops, tanks, armored personnel carriers and bulldozers have rolled into Khan Yunis in the south, Gaza's second biggest city, forcing already displaced civilians to pack up and flee again. According to the Army's Southern Command, Chief Major General Yaron Finkelman, The fighting was the most intense day since the beginning of the ground operation in late October. Recall that Israel declared war on Hamas after the militant group's October 7 attacks that killed 1,200 people, mostly civilians, according to Israeli authorities, and saw around 240 hostages taken. In a related development, the U.S. Department of State has said that it will impose visa restrictions on Israeli settlers involved in undermining peace, security, or stability in the occupied West Bank. The Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced the move one day after the State Department said that Israel has not taken sufficient steps to address settler attacks that have driven many Palestinians off their land. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden and other senior U.S. officials have warned repeatedly that Israel must act to stop violence by Israeli settlers against Palestinians in the West Bank, which has increased since the October 7 Hamas attack on Israel. Still on the foreign scene, U.S. President Joe Biden has said that part of his motivation to run for a second term next year is to prevent the return of former President Donald Trump. Biden made this known at a campaign fundraising event near Boston, USA. Reports say the president's remarks show his aspirations for a second term squarely on opposing Trump's comeback bid. According to reports, Trump will be skipping the fourth Republican presidential debate on Wednesday next week, which will be held in Alabama. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has called off a high-profile briefing with U.S. lawmakers amid an impasse over future U.S. funding for the country. Virtual appearances in the Senate and House has been scheduled for Tuesday, but were cancelled at the last moment. This came after a top they are in danger of losing the war against Russia if more U.S. military aid is not approved. The Senate leader, Chuck Schumer, said the Ukrainian president was occupied with a last-minute matter without providing further details, hence the cancellation. In the meantime, 17 people died and 11 were injured when a passenger bus carried off a road on a killer curve and plunged down a mountain in the central Philippines today. Reports say the bus was traveling in Hamtig municipality in Antique province when the crash happened. Officials say 7 people were in critical condition in a hospital and 4 others were stable, describing the section of road as accident-prone. Meanwhile, 1 Kenyan national was among those killed and a 2nd Kenyan was among those critically injured. It's now time for the latest business and stock market stories. Here is Blessing Dixon.
Thank you, Francis Edet. Good evening. It's Business News. My name is Blessing Dixon. In the news, we begin with the agricultural commodity, where raw sugar prices fell below 25 cents per pound, the lowest in over 3 months, as a rise in sugar output from Brazil raised concerns about a potential supply surplus in the 2023-24 period. Brazil, the leading sugar producer, saw an impressive 30% surge in output in the initial half of November, surpassing market forecasts. This surge was propelled by favorable weather conditions, enhanced logistics, and bearish technical signals, notably the nearby spreads. As a result, the National Supply Company, CANAP, has raised its 2024-2024 Brazil production estimate by 15% to 46.9 million metric tons from an August estimate of 40.9 million metric tons. Also, additional downward pressure came from lower crude oil prices, which may lead sugar mills worldwide to shift more of their cane crushing towards sugar production rather than the ethanol. Away from that, Ghana's private sector expands for 10 months. The SP Global Ghana Purchase Managers Index rose to 51.6 in November 2023 from 50.5 in the previous month, pointing a 10th consecutive month of growth in the private sector. It was also the highest reading since August, with a new increase in output after the previous month saw no change. Also, a modest increase in new orders quickly led to a 3-month high and increased business activity. Moreover, the most recent increase in staffing levels was strong, albeit marginally softer than that recorded in the previous month, and brought the current job creation sequence to a 12-month duration. Regarding prices, selling prices increased in November and the fastest since April, but the rate of inflation remained significantly lower than the series average and lower than that of 2022. In Nigeria, Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves have fallen by $1.6 billion to $32.97 billion since the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, announced the unification of the exchange rate to unify the country's foreign exchange rate. As of June 15, 2023, when the naira was allowed to float, the country's gross foreign exchange reserve stood at $34.62 billion. However, the foreign exchange reserves fell to $32.97 billion as of December 1st, 2023, shedding a $1.65 billion according to data from the CBN. The decline in the FX reserves have been blamed for the fall in the naira rate and has been attributed to the limited capacity of the country to earn foreign exchange from both non-oil and oil exports, and increasing FX demands, which has seen the naira weaken by more than 40% since June. In July, the Apex Bank noted that accrual to external reserves remained weak, with foreign exchange demand pressures persisted. Well, it's time for the Nigerian stock market report. At the end of today's trading session on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, a total of 690.01 million shares in 8,412 deals corresponding to a market value of 12.1 billion naira were traded. Compared with Tuesday's trade, today's data shows a 59% improvement in volume, 9% improvement in turnover, and 20% improvement in deals. The current market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange is at 39.3 trillion naira. 121 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 34 gainers and 22 losers. Thomas Watt Nigeria led the gainers with a 9.93% share price appreciation, closing at 3 naira 32 kobo per share. On the losing side, AXA Mansard Insurance came out last with an end-of-day price appreciation of 9.69% at 4 naira and 10 kobo per share. Guaranteed Trust Holdings recorded the highest volume of 76.7 million traded shares, followed by United Bank for Africa with 74.6 million and Fidelity Bank with 65.6 million traded shares. This is all on business news, and back to Francis Edet for the rest of the news.
Thank you, Blessing Dixon. And still to come in the news, NCF releases final list of female yellow greens. Just stay with us.
Christmas season is here again. Are you aware that making your business or products visible on a television space gives your brand a wider visibility and patronage? In the spirit of the season, Spectrum Television is offering a whopping 25% discount on all services. Advertise your products and services while this offer lasts from 1st December 2023 to January 31st, 2024. We are a television with a passion to take your business and services on a satisfactory lane. You do not want to miss this opportunity. For more inquiries, visit our city office at number 2 Taft Plaza Close off Akaitinen Road, Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, or call the following numbers on your screen. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon. Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Glad to know you're still with us. And now to the concluding part of the news stories. In how the World Health Organization (WHO) has called for increased taxes on alcohol and sugar-sweetened beverages (SSBS) to reduce deaths from drinking alcohol and unhealthy behaviors. WHO in a press statement said globally, 2.6 million people die from drinking alcohol every year and over 8 million people from an unhealthy diet. It said imposing taxes on alcohol and SSBS would reduce these deaths. The organization revealed that globally the taxes on unhealthy products such as alcohol and SSBS were low. The findings highlighted that the majority of countries were not using taxes to incentivize healthier behaviors. Still in health, the Nigerian Medical Association (NMA) says that the continuous mass exodus of health professionals in the country is causing a strain on the remaining health workers, patients, and the health sector. Federal Capital Territory Chairman of the NMA, Dr. Charles Ogwai, while speaking with newsmen, noted that the mass exodus, particularly known as Japa, has further led to a shortage of doctors and nurses and caused the closure of some health facilities. According to him, the current ratio of doctors to patients is now 1 doctor to 7,100 patients. And now for the latest sports stories, here's Isaac.
Well, thank you so much, Francis, and good evening. In sports, ahead of the International Cricket Council African World Cup qualifier, the Nigerian Cricket Federation, the NCF, has released the final list of players of the female Yellow Greens. Head coach of the team, Leke Oyede, announced the final squad after inviting 18 players to the camp in one of Nigeria's Cricket Federation's high-performance centers in Benin, Edo State. Blessed Etim will lead the team as captain. She will be joined by other familiar names including Sunday Salome, Esther Sandy, Lucky Piti, Victory Benedion, Favor Esigbe, and Christabel Chukunonye. Others include wicketkeepers Sarah Itim and Abigail Igbobie, batting sensation Lilian Ode, Rukayat Abdurazak, Peculiar Agboya, Adekunla Deshola, and Rachel Sampson. The standby players are Esther Odunayo and Anointed Akigbe. Nigeria are in Group B of the qualifying series along with Namibia, host Uganda, and arch rivals Rwanda. The team will arrive in Lagos on Tuesday ahead of the departure to Kampala, Uganda, the venue of the qualifiers. While in tennis, former champion Caroline Wozniacki has been awarded a wildcard for next month's Australian Open. The Dane, who is 33, retired in 2020 but returned in August after giving birth to her 2 children. Wozniacki reached the US Open 4th round in September on her Grand Slam comeback, losing to eventual winner Coco Gauff. While the Australian Open at Melbourne Park starts on the 14th of January. The tournament has been extended to 15 days for the first time in an attempt to reduce the number of late night finishes. Andy Murray, Rafa Nadal, Naomi Osaka, Arina Sabalenka, and Elena Rybakina are among the 9 Grand Slam champions who will compete at the Brisbane International from December 31st to the 7th of January. Finally, from the Formula One scene, China, Miami, Austria, Austin, Sao Paulo, and Qatar are the 6th Grand Prix chosen to host sprint event during next season's Formula One season. F1 announced the list of races on Tuesday and said changes to the format of the event were under discussion. A plan to move qualifying for the sprint to Friday and hold the shorter race on Saturday before Grand Prix qualifying has been effectively agreed. More radical changes, such as reversing the sprint grid, are being considered. This has been discussed at the meeting of the Formula One Commission, which comprises F1, governing body, the FIA, and all 10 teams in January. 2 plans of this different nature are under consideration for a format change for the sprint, which are races that run to about 1/3 of the distance of a Grand Prix. The more dramatic is the reverse part of the grid for the sprint, likely the top 10 positions. Discussions have been held as to how this could effectively be done. Miami follows on 35th of May and is also hosting a sprint event for the first time this season. Well, this are the stories we're tracking right now, and this is it for sports. My name is Isaac. Well, back to
Thank you, Isaac. Move to entertainment, where American renowned pop star Taylor Swift has been added to Forbes' list of billionaire musicians, joining the likes of Jay-Z, Rihanna, Kanye West, and Diddy. According to Forbes, she is the first musician to achieve the feat solely based on her songs and performances. Updated Taylor Swift's net worth to $1.1 billion via their website. Still on entertainment, US-based Nigerian dancer Kora Obidi has called out her estranged husband Justin Dean over failure to pay child support. Obidi, in a new viral clip on the internet, accused Dean of not contributing financially to the care of their 2 kids. Recall that Obidi and Dean's marriage crashed in 2022 over allegations of infidelity. Meanwhile, Nigerian disc jockey, DJ and singer Florence Otedola, popularly known as DJ Cuppy, has urged her fans to be patient with her as she is still trying to perfect her music. She admitted that she promised to release new music this year, but that she wants to, first of all, perfect the art. The billionaire heiress said her new age makes her feel like she has another proper shot, urging fans to be patient with her. Lastly, in the news tonight, South African singer Lara Sithal, simply known as Tyler, has explained why she loves Nigerian singer Sake. Speaking on the inspiration behind her viral hit, Water, in a recent interview with Rolling Stone, Tyler said she loves how Sake uses his choir vocals. She said her song Water was inspired by Amapiano from her home country, her childhood R&B influences, and Nigeria's Afrobeats. And that's all we have for you this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtvlive.ng. You've been watching Spectrum TV News at 9. I am Francis Oyima, edit. Many thanks, and do enjoy the rest of your night.